I'm going to turn this over to Scott Rogers with the Alabama Department of Transportation, who's been a huge part of getting this meeting coordinated. So Scott?
Thank you, Eve. I hope everyone can hear me okay. I've got nothing to share on my screen, just my beautiful voice and a beautiful video. But yeah, and to echo Eve, we really appreciate everybody attending today and supporting our efforts in this time of weirdness and crisis. As part of the standard introduction that everybody's required to give, we hope everybody is well and staying safe and following the proper infection control precautions. And despite all that, all that extra effort we have to do these days, appreciate your carving out time for us today. So, we wanted to keep building on the good work we've done here in the Alabama Stormwater Association over the past 2 or 3 years. But protecting Alabama's resources, namely our waters, but also at the same time protecting our members. And so, we know that waters are still an important, part of our public health. As part of that kind of One Health model for including environmental factors. May not be as pressing as preventing infection by COVID-19, but certainly an important part. And we wanted to keep our good work going while protecting ourselves. And there's, I'm sure, a lot of organizations right now are doing this kind of remote learning opportunity, remote collaboration type of work. And we've set out to be kind of a unique entity over the last 2 or 3 years. So we're going to encourage as much interaction as possible during this webinar and in future remote learning and remote collaboration opportunities. I think it's just good for us also to have a little taste of normalcy and some distraction in the middle of all this mess we're in right now. So I'm just really glad to kind of have a normal type activity to be doing. And as part of our 2020 plan in ASA, we were planning to branch out anyway, and really kind of make some progress on providing these online opportunities. We know that we've had some really good success and well-attended half-day seminars so far, and we've tried to make those as accessible as possible by putting them in centralized locations. But we still know that that's for some folks it's a 4 or 5 hour drive. It takes up a whole day, and just even though you may have wanted to attend before, you have not been able to. We've also had new members joining our roster that just haven't had the opportunity yet to attend one of our seminars. So we're hoping to kind of scratch some all these itches here today and keep this ball rolling as much as possible. So welcome to all the new members that this is your first activity with ASA. It perhaps might be an odd first activity, but we've had a lot of good momentum over the last 2 or 3 years, and this is just kind of one piece of the puzzle, and we've got more to come once it's safer. So thank you all again, and I'll turn it back over to Eve.
Thank you, Scott. And as I sometimes do, I just get so excited to see people and start a meeting, I forget to introduce myself. And my name is Eve Brantley, and I'm here at Auburn University in Department of Crop, Soil, and Environmental Sciences and the Extension Water Resource Specialist. And we've got a fantastic board of directors that have been working to organize events and to bring you information as we continue in these uncertain times. And now it's my pleasure to introduce my friend, Mr. Brett Connell. Brett developed the high definition stream survey method in grad school and started Trutta Environmental Solutions in 2012. He has 15 years experience in water resources, stream ecology, and fisheries biology with project experience in 12 states. Brett specializes in the development and application of innovative technologies that help solve difficult water resource management problems. He has an MS in Biosystems Engineering and Technology from the University of Tennessee, a BS in Environmental Science from the University of Toledo, an associate's degree in Fisheries Management and Aquaculture from Hocking College. So Brett, thanks again for serving as our first webinar presenter and for providing us this opportunity to hear from you and learn more from you.
Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity as well. So thank you all for joining. I was yeah, pretty happy to see 67 people here. So this is great, and I'll go ahead and get started. So name of my company is Truda or Truda, doesn't really matter. Eve pronounces it one way or the other every single time. But either way, this is a lot of it's going to be based on a specific project that we did for the municipality, the city of Cleveland, Tennessee. But more importantly, it's just everything we did for them delivered, and either way, they're very happy with the product. So quite a few of you have probably already seen my basic presentation, and so I'm going to do like a quick little brief intro of high definition stream surveys to not bore you, and then kind of get into the meat of the new stuff that we've been doing. And so there's a picture of me back in grad school with my advisor, and back then we only focused on left and right video. And so my thesis, actually using Dave Rosgen's Beehive, doing visual assessment from video, we documented bank height and bank angle and surface protection and riparian diversity. And actually in some recent news that my thesis has actually been published in a peer-reviewed journal pretty recently, which I'll be able to share that information later. But either way, back then we were just documenting areas of high bank erosion based on the Beehive, the Bank Erosion Hazard Index. And so, and on top of that, you know, we're able to do a rapid geomorphic assessment. We're able to do a stream corridor assessment. We're able to do all sorts. And then we're also documenting infrastructure. We're able to document and, you know, between point and non-point source pollution, like how much impact is that having upstream and downstream as opposed to just right at its exact location. We'll get more into that. Since then, we've not developed, but added a front camera, and that kind of just really helps, one, with determining habitat type, whether you're in pool, riffle, run, but it also just gives you a 360 view of everything that's going on the stream. And it's pretty much Google Stream View, but on top of, you know, good visual representation of the whole stream. It's a ton of data, which we will get into. And so when streams allow, we have downward video, which you can look at substrate type and embeddedness. We also have a water quality sensor, which right now it's getting measurements, or the output is in 1 hertz. So we're actually getting every single second, we get a different, you know, DO, pH, temp, etc. And then with that, we have like the Manta 35 water quality sensor, and with that we can actually add numerous different songs as far as what, you know, what are you looking for? Are you looking for blue-green algae? Are you looking for just, you know, the list goes on. They have a whole bunch, and so I can send that information as well to see if, you know, you guys are looking for a specific type of nutrient or anything in the water. Another thing we added, because a lot of the waters in Alabama, as I'm sure you're all aware of, there's not very much visibility through the water from turbidity. And so you have turbidity and also depth, but the side scan sonar imagery has really just enabled us to visualize what is going on underneath the stream, especially in, you know, bigger rivers and more turbid. It's amazing. And kind of the beauty and somewhat curse is, you know, Lowrance and Hummingbird are the 2 main brands, and they're constantly leapfrogging as far as who has the latest and greatest technology. And so we pretty much end up buying a new side scan sonar unit every 2 years, and it just gets better and better. I mean, we're able to see, you know, the whiskers on a catfish that's 15 feet below the kayak. And so just again, what you're able to see is amazing, and that translates to sediment and all sorts of other stuff. Large woody debris you're able to see. The latest piece of equipment that we used was the acoustic Doppler current profiler, also known as the ADCP. And with that, you're able to get much more precise bathymetric measurements. You're able to do transects and get discharge measurements and velocity. And kind of the beauty of having that on the kayak is, you know, when we go and cover, say, 15 miles in a day, we can do cross sections that are network corrected, very high grade GPS, and have network corrected surface water elevation, substrate elevation, and then cross sections. And then we're able to, you know, just document everything out in the middle of nowhere, because again, we're putting all this equipment and going on a boat. Something else that we've been doing is taking grab samples, whether it's for eDNA or whether it's E. coli or, you know, just anything. Basically, if you guys need water grab samples at a tributary, if you need it in certain increments going down a river, long story short, we can get as many as you need, anywhere you need. And, you know, with a 12-foot sit on top kayak, we can load a lot of water samples in there, and each one of those water samples will be geo-referenced as we mark it going downstream. And the whole point of all this is that all of this information is linked by GPS. And so all of the video, all of the data being collected, it has a specific time, it has a specific latitude, longitude, surface water elevation, substrate elevation, gives you depth. And then as you're going to see throughout the rest of this, you know, as we do visual assessments for numerous different parameters, every single one of those is geo-referenced to a specific GPS point. And so here, this is from the more recent survey we did on South Mouse Creek. You know, we did this in May 20th, 2019. You're all down in Alabama. You know, it's obviously today's date. And so kind of the beauty of having this video archive going through the whole stream is 10 years from now, we can go and reassess this video and see what was going on where, you know, how have land use changed? You know, how has that affected the river? How has the river changed itself in every single GPS point along this way? And so again, just the whole point of this is to get away from point sampling, not necessarily get away, but to, one, supplement it, but also just use the technology that's available and cover all these areas between the traditional access points where samples are done. Because, you know, this area right here of high erosion, you would not have seen it if you were just doing a 200-meter survey at a bridge. And nor would the survey you did at that 200 meters by the bridge be representative of everything that you're missing. And so again, that's just the whole point of HDSS, is to turn on a bunch of equipment, get all of the information, and, you know, not just extrapolate on data and assume that you're correct. As we keep finding out, you're probably not. And so just out of curiosity, you can nod, Eve. Are you able to see my cursor right there in the lower right? Sweet, thank you. So it started with kayaks. That was in my thesis, and then probably the majority of my work was in kayaks, but then we kept on being asked to do shallower streams, especially once you know, we entered the stormwater world. And then with bigger rivers, we were always using 2 kayaks, where you can have, you know, a kayak on the left, so it's close enough to the stream bank where you can get details to do the stream bank assessment and all that. But then since then, this is actually us last year below Harris Dam on the Tallapoosa River. And this is pretty wild because there's some shoals directly underneath the dam, and when they're not releasing, there isn't enough water to go over the shoals. And so we literally waited right there. We heard the siren for the dam go off, and then we stayed in the water, which is something that you're not, you know, you don't typically do. But either way, it was just very wild to see that water rose, you know, 5-6 feet within a matter of 30 minutes. And then we rode that slug of water 18 miles downriver, getting cross sections and the complete corridor information set. And so we delivered that to Alabama Power. And that was a beautiful body of water. If any of you have ever canoed or kayaked below Harris Dam, just that whole Tallapoosa River is beautiful. Lots of wildlife, clear water, but a very unique flow regime coming out of Harris Dam. And so the whole point of high definition stream surveys is to have one survey that gets information for everybody. And so if you're dealing with stormwater MS4 permitting and you need to know where all of your outfalls are and what is the condition of the water coming out of those outfalls, and then, you know, DOT is probably interested in, you know, what are the impacts from the river having on its infrastructure. Hydropower, they fund quite a bit of the work we do. They're interested in water quantity. Environmental groups are interested in the water quality. And so habitat wildlife organizations generally deal with this. This is a TWRA, the Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency, but we did the stream corridor survey on, you know, 19 miles of the Caney Fork River, and then they actually put one of our cameras on their boat and went out and did electroshocking. And so now we know what fish were caught where and what that habitat actually was, where those fish were sampled. And then you can take that and actually extrapolate throughout the rest of the 19 miles on real data. And so again, that one turned out very well. And again, just being able to make it easy to understand what is going on where. And so you know, you can have 3 colors of green, yellow, red, you know, good, bad, really ugly. And you can make it easy to understand on a landscape scale what is going on where But then on top of making it easy to understand, you can also put them in the river so they can see, why is this area red? Why is this area green? And then you can go ahead and start making decisions based on real data on throughout the entire river. And so I guess I have a few sections where slides where I'm gonna pause. And if you guys have any questions on like the actual field methods or anything right now, I'm not able to see comments or anything, but
right, Brett, Scott Hoover will be he'll be watching the chat, and so if you all have questions and knowing that there's going to be breakpoints, feel free to put a question into that chat box, and then Scott Hoover can make sure that he gets those to Brett. So I appreciate you taking a pause, Brett. Does anyone have any questions either for the chat box or to unmute your mic and ask a question now? Okay, sounds like we can keep going, and please feel free to use that chat box to catalog your questions and get them in. Oh wait, here's a question from Jeremy Ward. Scott, I'll let you take it.
Yeah, can you hear me?
yes, I can.
Okay, I think one question came through and it's asking, so are the outfalls measured or are they just located and noted? I guess, are they measured as far as their diameter, or are they just located? Oh,
my video stopped. So right now, like when we go downstream, the whole point is just to cover the most amount of ground as you can. And you can see you'll see here in a minute with our walking sticks, there's markings on that. So it's technically, we're walking with a yardstick, and you'll actually see me go up to an outfall and put the walking stick next to it. And so we're able to get some crude measurements as far as, between major and minor outfalls. 36 inches is technically the size of pipe when it comes to MS4 permitting. And so we're able to locate there you go right here. And so one, we're able to do that just for the basic reconnaissance. And then you'll kind of see we have some bad outfalls and whatnot. And like when you're talking about like illicit discharges, if you need to do more investigating, normally we have a second person who can stop and do, whether you're taking grab samples, whether you're taking additional water quality measurements, if you need to, go, if it's coming through a pipe, if you need to go and check the source of where that's coming from, you can do some investigating right then. But more often than not, we're just documenting like, yes, here's a good pipe and nothing's coming out of it. And then you go on, and then you'll see once in a while there are bad pipes. And then we don't technically right now, we don't go investigate it any further, but it's not to say we can't have other people in our crew to go and do that, or that it just gets addressed the next day. I mean, the whole point is just to cover everything and see the big picture and have that, have all of that information. So hopefully that answers that. And actually, I'm able to see a question. Does the movement of a person or boat in the water significantly affect measurements like DO? And so on streams where we're kayaking, if we're shallow water and the transducer is dragging on the ground right by the water quality sensor, it absolutely is affecting that as far as turbidity or DO or any of the other markers that are going on. But we also know that we're getting compromised water quality recordings at that time. When we're kayaking through big streams, if we're not touching the bottom, we're getting great water quality measurements. And then let alone we keep a consistent speed and we're going, 3 to 4, 5 miles an hour downstream. And then a lot of times when we come up to a tributary, sometimes that tributary will look like chocolate milk coming into the main stem. Sometimes it doesn't, but either way, I can take my kayak and go into that tributary and get the individual data, the water quality measurements of that tributary. And then I can come back into the main stem and you can kind of see, I have plenty of slides of that exact instance where it actually has an impact on the main stem so big that it just changes the whole chemistry profile. And it's pretty astounding. And you rarely see it. Sometimes by golf courses, I'll see a pipe spewing out some green stuff, and I can literally just go and take and put the tail of my kayak that has the water quality sensor, put it right in the green water, and then bam, you're getting that water quality measurement right there. And then you just peel off and keep on going downstream. When we're hiking, like in this video, for instance, and I also got to say, video over webinars is always very choppy. So I apologize if you're seeing choppy video. This is always shot on 1080p video and is crystal clear. So I apologize for any unperfect video. But when we're walking downstream, we're not taking continuous water quality measurements while we're hiking. We could do increments, because again, this would be the second person doing it. And so, like, you know, if you had requirements where you wanted it every 100 meters, we could do every 100 meters, quarter mile, mile. But most importantly, wherever you see those illicit discharges, or, you know, just something's going on here, we need a water quality sample. Whenever we see conditions change, we can easily take one. And so it's kind of municipality specific, you know, project specific. What information do you need exactly for us to make sure you can check your boxes and complete this permitting process? And so hopefully that answers the questions. And if I didn't answer it, let me know, but I'll go ahead and keep going. And so for this specific project, the municipality that we were working with, they needed all of their previous data was in the stream corridor assessment. That's what they've been doing for years. And so they wanted our HDSS output to fit the stream corridor assessment protocols. And so we worked with them and we did it, and we had that output. For my thesis, we actually did the BHI, which has since now been peer reviewed and published. And then pretty interesting, we just had calls the past couple of weeks working with, I'm blanking on the company name, but either way, the people that came up with the stream functions pyramid, and we're going to be working together on the project and making sure, one, we know that HDSS will be able to translate to the stream functions pyramid, but we're going to be also working with them to make sure, anyway, just to be completely sure that we're doing it right. And kind of the beauty of having HDSS and all that video profile is I'll literally be able to do my assessment, and then they'll be able to watch it and score it themselves. And we'll actually be able to compare, you know, was my assessment of the stream functions pyramid of this river the same as his? And then we can compare that and collaborate and go on. We could even have, you know, Dave Roskin jump on, or Barry Fagan, or anybody can watch this video. And that's kind of the beauty of having this reviewable video archive forever. You know, looking back at some stream assessments from 15 years ago, you might have some pictures, but more often than not, you're just going to have a data sheet that was filled out by somebody in the field. And you have to take it as gospel that they did their job correctly. They knew what they were doing. They did it correctly, and conditions were right, basically. And so, I mean, it's not to say that that data is not good, but there's no way to go back 15 years and look at 360 video of, you know, upstream and downstream in the exact impact site and see what is going on where. Could something else have been causing this issue? And so, again, just having that video archive is something we like to push, obviously. And so here's the watershed within the municipality we're working with. And so the first goal is to collect the HDSS data, and we actually got to do both kayak and backpack, and all of that data mends very easily. And then we used HDSS data to classify the extent, the location, severity, and correctability, this is all part of the SCA, of all these different parameters. And sorry for reading, but channel alteration, left and right bank erosion susceptibility, exposed pipes, pipe outfalls, fish barriers, construction, trash, and just other unique problem areas that they might not have necessarily been looking for with the SCA. And so we created GIS layers for every one of those parameters listed. And then one of the other deliverables, like most of our projects, is they want to know, you know, where are the 20 worst locations giving us the biggest issues? Estimates of, you know, how easy is this going to be to fix? And also the relative cost associated with that. And so we're able to deliver, again, all this. If that city only had X amount of dollars that year, and they wanted to know, okay, what project can we go to? What are one of the worst ones within our price budget? Now you can start prioritizing where you're actually going to put your work. And so with the stream corridor assessment, just kind of get into the specifics of this specific one. It's split up into 3 parts. You're dealing with riparian zone condition, stream bank condition, and stream bed condition. And each one of those gets its own unique assessment. And this one, you know, kind of taking a step back, normally with most of the work that you all have seen is we pretty much only just document bank condition. And so we watch that video one time and we're able to deliver, you know, our opinion of bank condition. But because they wanted the SCA, it required some additional viewings, which is fine. They just worked it into the proposal. And the end product is, as you'll see, the end product is just very impressive. And so you have the 3 areas, and then there's also 2 different types of data that's going to be collected in those 3 areas. And one of those is continuous variables of those 3 areas, but then also point variables, which are, you know, pipes, culverts, trash, etc. And so with each one of those, there's both a severity index, which pretty much measures like how far is it from maintaining its natural functions on a scale of 1 to 5. And then also modification type, which describes the level of human modification to the stream channel. And living in Alabama, I'm sure everyone here has seen both these types of streams. And so, you know, just because it's, you know, the stream on the right is obviously not good from a biological aspect, none of those walls are failing and everything. So it's going to be highly modified, but the severity of it is not going to be bad because it's actually functioning the way that it should, and in MS4 respect. So examples of riparian zones. And so you can see on the top left, you have highly vegetated. In the middle, it's, you know, you're starting to have some impacts from development. And then even here, again, I'm sure you've seen all of this, where it's just a ditch next to a parking lot that's straight as an arrow. And either way, not very productive from a biological aspect, but either way. And with when we do riparian zone, we're also using satellite imagery in addition to the HDSS video. And so, you know, we do this visual assessment, grading it on a scale of 1 to 5 between severity, and then also condition type. You know, is it natural ground cover? Does it have, does it have riprap, or is it completely paved? And so you can get a matrix, you know, of the riparian. And so we'll switch over to stream banks and kind of go over some severity examples where, you know, is it eroding? How steep is the bank angle? And then how high is the bank angle? And so that's what the SCA focused on. It's slightly different from the B-high, but it's also very similar if you're just looking at the basic measurements. And then the level of modification, these are some examples where you have totally unmodified, you have riprap that looks good, and then you have failing riprap, and then you have good concrete. We didn't run into any solid concrete that was failing on this specific project, and that's actually me looking into a tunnel underneath the road with all sorts of stuff going on. But the video turned out well. And so we're going to go to stream bed. Here's some severity examples of, you know, a natural type substrate bottom, but then you can get a channelized stream, and then you can have a completely concrete channelized stream. And so we have training manuals to pretty much teach this stuff. We haven't done much of it besides the National Park Service, who we're actually working with right now. And so the whole training manual is constantly growing. And so if you're, you know, looking for examples of what a severity score is while you're watching video, there's countless examples. And, you know, we're up to 800 miles now that HDSS has been, or almost 800, that HDSS has been completed on. And so we just have countless examples of, you know, what is scored what and why. And so with that, I will go ahead and pause yet again to see if there's any questions popping up. I don't see any in the chat box, but if anybody wants to type something or chime in, you are more than welcome.
There is one question about what's your favorite Alabama stream you've surveyed so far?
Tallapoosa, I was very surprised. Now, granted, like I said, the flow regime on it is unique. Like they have 2 separate peaks. And so I think that affects the biological aspect of the Tallapoosa River below Harris Dam, but the water was absolutely gorgeous, and there was very, very little development. So, I mean, I saw bald eagles and all sorts of stuff flying. It was not the most productive from a fisheries standpoint, I don't believe. And that was just from me observing, not even fishing. So I couldn't even do a hook and line survey while I work, just so you all know. But yeah, as far as that was one of the most surprising. Anything in the Paint Rock River, that was absolutely, that whole watershed is gorgeous. And then Turkey Creek was very nice as well. Bear Creek was, Bear Creek was amazing. There's a lot of great, great streams up there in Alabama. So
I have one other question. Do you, so what is the kind of the craziest thing you've observed while you've been doing these surveys that you've come across?
Craziest, well, it's not crazy. The most angering thing I see is cows everywhere, which are just, I call them point sources personally, because there's just, 50 of them standing in the water, defecating right in front of you. And so that was one of the most eye-opening. I remember going by, I believe the Oxford water treatment facility when I was doing Chakalaka. There was some absolutely disgusting water flowing into the river while I was working, and I got to see all that. And so I guess that was somewhat surprising, and also somewhat knowing that it hasn't been corrected is also very surprising. But yeah, I mean, as far as more surprising than that, I don't have any answers unless you have something more specific. I've never been assaulted or anything while working, so that's always good. You get in some pretty off beaten path areas where people don't like intruders, but I've never had any bad instances of landowners or anything. Never flipped a kayak, knock on wood. People that have worked with me have flipped a kayak, and that was a very cold day for him. But either way, it all got surveyed. And I see a new question. Could you give us a rundown of the overall procedure of assigning a score? How much is done by formula or formal analysis, and how much is judgment? So I'll get more into that when we actually when I watch the video. I'll actually have my software up so you can see it. So like depth measurement, side scan sonar, water quality, GPS, all of that is out of my hands. And so that's recorded data that you get to see. Now, when it comes to judging severity of a stream bank or judging, just the overall functionality of, be it, the shoreline, the stream bank, or the substrate, it is subjective, but it's also, one, re-reviewable by, numerous professionals, but it is, if I'm doing bank condition or if I'm doing bank height, it is my visual perception while watching video. And so, a lot of times, like when I'm doing a survey and I see a large cut bank, I know that my paddle is 2.5 meters long. And so I can literally have the guy that's helping me paddle up alongside of the river and hold his paddle up. And you can literally see, like, okay, well, this 2.5 meter paddle is about 2 feet short. And so you can get very close estimates from doing it visual. And what I've said before in all of my presentations is, does it matter if I say this is 10 feet when it's actually 11 feet? Or does it matter that you're doing a traditional sample 3 miles upstream and you never would have had a clue that this giant mass wasting area of high erosion was happening? And you're not going to see that unless you get in a boat and go from point A to point B. And so, yeah, it is my personal call. And you guys, if you ever watch this video and start doing analysis, if you see, a 6 foot cut bank, you can call it a 6 foot cut bank, and then I can review that. We also have levels of QA QC while we're doing our work. And so that should answer that question. And I'll get into the procedure of how we watch the video and assign certain, like, we watch the video and tag times of where conditions change. And so regarding landowners, here's the next comment is, regarding landowners, are there legal issues with the accessing smaller streams? So at least in Alabama and Tennessee, as long as my feet don't touch the substrate, I am not trespassing. And so backpack surveys, different areas have done it differently, whereas they've sent out mailers to all of the property owners that are, parallel to the body of water that I'm going to go hike, and they can send out mailers. And if anybody doesn't want us to do that, then we can avoid that property, which we've done on several occasions. And then that's mainly with backpacking that you have to do that. Anytime I've been kayaking, I've not had any issues with kayaking. Now, I've come up to areas where there's been an impact and I've had to get out of my kayak to either drag it over a shallow area or drag it over a tree that's, across the bank. And so for a split period of time, there might be an issue, but I've never had an issue to this day. We just go ahead and cover from point A to point B, and we don't take our time. Again, averaging right around 4 miles an hour, just cruising down the river, turn on all the equipment and go. So that's what we do. Oh, sorry for that stopping. And then kind of on the topic of illicit discharges, you can kind of see, so right here, here's some very clear crystal water, and here you have some very dark water. And so at each of those locations, that's me right there actually being the second surveyor. I can pull out the water quality sensor and get water quality measurements at these exact areas. We can take grab samples of the water. We can take substrate samples, all sorts of stuff. And so then this is another good example. Let me see if I can fast forward a little bit. But you see stormwater pipes coming out all over, and you're able to map all of the good ones, but every once in a while, you're going to see bad ones. And so again, having this method that just documents everything, we're going to go back and we're able to geo-reference this spot right here that was having an obvious impact. I went way too quick. But either way, it's rare that you see places like this, but either way, we have it documented. We can take water grab samples right there. We can take substrate samples, and either way, it's documented. And so there might be further investigation needed for where that weep hole is coming. And so either way, you know what it looked like that day, and you can go investigate it after. And so I've already done continuous variables. So next is point variables. And so exposed pipe is one of the first ones that I like to show, because you can see on the left, you have minor impacts of smaller pipes. And then you start seeing bigger impacts where, in the middle, trees, all sorts of debris and whatnot can get caught in these pipes. And then you go even a step further, and you can see the pipe right here on the bottom underneath severe. This pipe was bending big time, you can tell, because it's been getting hit by so much water during rain events. And this river, or this little stream, I should say, was for the most part dry right there. Not dry, but either way, there's not much water. And so, just during storm events, a lot of water starts ripping through there. And then that's why that pipe's bent. But either way, it's just a matter of time as far as I'm concerned, because there's nothing to support that beam. And so once the right flood comes or the right piece of debris, that pipe is definitely some infrastructure that it would be of concern to the municipality. And so another one is fish barriers that we documented, and sometimes you have minor ones, then you have moderate, and then up to severe, where there's culverts right there going underneath a road that were elevated about 5 feet. And so there was just zero connectivity for wildlife to get from downstream to upstream. Going downstream to upstream would be quite the fall, but either way, that's just an area that needs to be addressed and that we found, because we're looking at the big picture. And so right here is the example for when I'm watching video. And so you can see to the left, we have keys. And so that's just a key on a keyboard. We have codes, and then we have categories. And so whether we're dealing with sedimentation, whether we're dealing with road crossings, whether we're dealing with pipes or anything. So right here, I see a fish barrier. And so I can go ahead and click the button for fish barrier. And then you can see down on the bottom where it has subjects, and I can say, well, is that point on the left or right bank? Does it affect both banks, or does it affect the entire channel? And so you do that, and then you can address, after you find the problem, show where the problem is, and then you can talk about the severity of it. And that's another pop-up menu that we use while we're watching video. But either way, the whole point is just where conditions change on a continuous scale, you can mark where those conditions change from, say, good to bad. And then you can also map out all of the point samples. And so, again, just checking all of the boxes for permitting, and in this instance, permitting, and then everything else, because it's one survey that gets information for all sorts of purposes. And that's the whole point. Forming partnerships, I think, is what I'm getting at. You know, if ADEM is interested in one piece of data and the fisheries sampling is from another division, but they still want to know all of that information, habitat information and MS4 information, you know, being able to pool resources and having one method that gets information for everybody is just economical. Because again, every conference we all go to, people say, well, we have less money and we need more data, and nobody's changing up their sampling methods. And so again, I've kind of beat my head up against the wall sometimes, but either way, we're gaining traction, and people are seeing the validity of what we're doing. And either way, leave it at that. And so kind of an example, I went too far, here we go. So one, this is just a picture, but this picture right here is linked to this exact dot right here on the map. And so that dot has a GPS point, a latitude and a longitude, and then you can see the numerous scores underneath. And so BC is, you know, you have left bank condition, severity and modification type, right bank condition, severity and modification type. Then you have left riparian and right riparian. Then you have stream bed severity and stream bed modification type. And so every single GPS point on every survey we've done has this layer of data. And especially this is specific to the stream corridor assessment. We don't always watch it this many times, and we didn't have to watch it. In fact, we only watched it 3 times to get this data. But that is just an enormous amount of data, and knowing that all of these numbers start changing as you start going upstream, and they don't, sometimes they co-vary, sometimes they don't. And it's just, again, being able to get that much information, that much detailed information on a meter scale. You know, for the Duck River, for instance, we've done 155 miles of the Duck River, and we have all of this unique information on 155 continuous miles. And we also have 250 cross sections. We have water quality sampling on those, you know, 200 on those 155 miles. And so it's an astronomical amount of data. And either way, it answers numerous types of questions. So it just depends what question you're looking to have answered. But again, this specific project is to do the stream corridor assessment. And so just another example. So here's pipe impact, and it's moderate, and it's on the left bank. And so you can just see a little black corrugated pipe coming out. There's no illicit discharge coming out of it, but either way, we see it, we mark it, we move on. And so, I mean, it could very well be a piece of trash, but either way, you document everything. Next one, you'll see, so here's a severe pipe impact, which we saw earlier. And then you can even see there's a piece of trash, which we also document. So there's a whole lot getting documented right there. And so right here, just being able to show both the combination of both condition, continuous data, and also point data. So you're able to, you know, if you're looking to, where's a pipe impact in a good stream so we can keep that stream good, or are you looking for, you know, the worst stream bank area? Either way, I mean, the list goes on. It just all depends on what you're looking for and what questions you're trying to answer. Is this for stormwater permitting? Or is this for, I'm trying to prioritize where to do stream bank restoration, or I'm trying to figure out where do I need to go repopulate the green side darter? And so the list goes on of the benefits of HDSS. And this right here, you can see this is actually from the most recent track. And so right now, right bank is highlighted, and you can see all the different tracks. And then down here, you can see condition code. And so if you only want to see the 3s, 4s, and 5s, you can just uncheck 1 and 2, and so you're able to see all of that. And then, so that's condition code, and then underneath that is modification code. And that's not colored, that's actually done by size. But either way, just you can switch to left bank as well, you can do right bank. But focusing on this, what's this one red dot right here in the middle of all this green? If you're going to try and do point surveys at bridges and road crossings, you're not going to see this stuff. But if you go ahead and walk the whole mile, I'm actually kayaking this section, we can put you in the stream and you can see, well, what is going on? So that's actually an old support for some infrastructure that used to be going across the stream. And so one, the pipe is gone, which might be of some concern, but it's also having huge impacts on the stream bank condition around that area. It's causing mass erosion, it's causing storm debris pileups. But either way, that's definitely an area of concern. And they were happy that we highlighted it and that they can now go and address it because it's having issues and it will only continue to have issues. And so with just to kind of quickly go over the deliverables with that project, we have the georeference video and also photos, because you can take, it's 30 frames per second and 1080p video. So you can take millions of different photographs from that video. Then we also deliver shape files with, what track was the actual video from, the time, the X, Y, and the Z coordinates, classification stores for, continuous and point data. We also delivered the top 20 problem areas, and then also the level of access, the level of correctability, and the estimated cost. And then we also delivered, wrapped everything up and delivered that in a report. And so just to kind of go back over the benefits of HDSS, it's faster data collection. That 155 miles that we've done on the Duck River, those 2 people, and it's 10 days of surveying. And so 2 people over 10 days gathered 155 miles of left bank, right bank, forward video, side scan sonar, and water chemistry. We also gathered 250 cross sections so that TDEC can do, they use River 2D. And so we're actually able to take our cross section information and put it in the format they need so that they can do all of their TMDL modeling. Then it's lower cost. If you're trying to do traditional assessments on 155 miles of river, the cost would just be absolutely through the roof in the millions of dollars, and it would take a lot of time. And just what I keep trying to repeat over and over since 2012, continuous data is better. Like looking at the big picture and seeing what is going on and finding these hotspots that could be having issues. It's proven invaluable to everybody that's used this data. And it just, again, supports, especially in this instance, if you're doing the stream corridor assessment, it's going to support the permitting and planning that, the municipalities are using it for. And then also for mitigation, knowing like where can I go and spend the least amount of money to have the biggest amount of impact, the biggest amount of ecological lift. And so when you see the big picture and have all of this data, you can make the best decisions as opposed to just sampling one spot next to a bridge and then assuming that that's representative. So just to touch, again, I mentioned earlier the Journal of Spatial Hydrology. It's a peer review. We've recently gotten published in there. And then also the River Management Society, if any of you are in that, I know it's slightly different than the MS4 world, but the River Management Society published us in their summer journal last of 2019. I'll be more than happy to share, send links to that material. And basically, we have a ton of data and a ton of information. And so never hesitate to shoot me an email and ask, what does it look like here? Or what type of information do you have there? Or just anything. Never hesitate to shoot me an email and ask, or give me a phone call. Doesn't matter. But either way, with that, I'll go ahead and leave it to questions, and hopefully you'll have some good ones for me.
Brett, I have one question. When you've been doing the water quality as you're going downstream, have you have some good instances where you can really see, because of an illicit discharge, that the water quality really changes and it's noticeable in the data for an outfall?
Absolutely. I can, if you want to give me a few minutes, if somebody else wants to think of a question, I can find a different PowerPoint and pull up. I have a ton of slides if you want me to do that.
It's up to you if you have time.
Yeah. Let's see.
We had another private question just asking, just overall, how has COVID-19 affected so far the workflow?
We work from home. We have home offices, and so no daycare has been my biggest. I don't want to call it a burden because I get to hang out with my little guy, but productivity on my end definitely goes down until mommy finishes her shift. My wife is actually a radio DJ, and she moved her recording studio to the walk-in closet. So she does her morning radio show in the morning, and I get to parent in the evening. You can't call it babysitting when it's your own son. But yeah. So that's no daycare has been the biggest thing for me. Let's see.
One other question was, do you kind of time your surveys for a certain time of the season, or are you pretty well all year round?
All depends on what information you need. We've worked every month of the year. So yeah, this is it right here. So this is actually this is a river up in Tennessee, but we're actually going down Falling Water River. And so you're seeing, this is only specific conductivity being shown. And so you're able to see, you're within this range of 265 to 303. And then we go up into Pigeon's Roost Creek, this is similar to the Oxford plant where this is the city of Cookeville water treatment facility discharges into Pigeon's Roost Creek. And so the water profile immediately changed when we went into the tributary. And then as we went downstream, it completely changed the profile. And so this right here, this is the kayak set up for the water quality sensor, and you can see the side scan sonar right underneath it. And so, yeah, that tells a story right there. We didn't have to get out of our boat or do anything. And we have very accurate water quality measurements documenting, not good water treatment facility actions. So yeah, and as far as best time of the year, it all depends what you're looking for, but like bank conditions specifically, like so for an upcoming project, they want to make sure that we're doing it during vegetation off. And so they're going to wait. So we're going to do the survey during the winter time. That's not always the same. Sometimes work requires going in the rainy season. Sometimes it doesn't. I mean, either way, it's just project specific, and we're constantly watching weather and gauges and making sure, if it's a multiple day survey, even if it's not a multiple day survey, you kind of want to make sure, looking at the hydrograph, that you're on a steady flow rate. Basically, you don't want to be going at a peak rate, and you don't want to be going during a drought, again, unless the project asks that. And that kind of reminded me of the Tallapoosa River and the Harris Dam releasing. They have two different peaks during the day. So trying to time out doing the survey during a certain flow is impossible. But either way, we were getting network corrected GPS. And so regardless of the time of the day or the flood, we knew the exact elevation that we were at to tie into our depth measurement. And so hopefully that answers the best time of year. And then, yeah, sorry. Any other questions? I really appreciate everybody's time. And please, what do you do when you encounter low water or deadfall? I've dragged my boat over many a tree trunks. We've had to portage. Yeah, Chocolaco was a very, very rough stream to do, especially up in the headwaters. There's a lot of water. Big Canoe Creek had a whole bunch of trees down. And again, my biggest nemesis is poison ivy. And so I don't mind dragging the kayak over trees, but when it's covered in poison ivy, I got to go hunt for a different route, which can sometimes be a problem in Alabama. But either way, I've dragged the kayak plenty of distance. And again, I got sick of dragging a kayak, which is why we started developing the backpack method, just to go ahead and put all the equipment on your back and go cover point A to point B. Are most of your clients interested in illicit discharge, stream stability, or infrastructure condition? Bank condition is definitely the one parameter that I've done more than anything is stream bank condition, because they're trying to prioritize, you know, where can I spend the least amount of money to have the biggest amount of impact on a stream bank restoration. Just because, you know, you're spending sometimes, you know, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on a restoration. And just in my personal opinion, I don't think there's enough monitoring done after restoration. You know, you're going to spend all this money right here. Well, what's going on upstream, what's going on downstream, because both those should technically improve if you're getting rid of a problem area. And so just being able to, one, you know, you need to document right there at the impact site what's going on, but also, again, having a way to see the big picture upstream and downstream is just proven invaluable. And so, yeah, the stormwater world is dealing more with infrastructure and whatnot, and we've kind of been doing more and more of that the past 3 to 4 years. But since 2012, bank condition is probably the most popular one we've done.
Well, Brett, thanks so much. And your contact information was on the slides, and also we can help direct people how to get in touch with you if they have future questions or think of something in 10 minutes that they want to follow up and learn a little bit more about. Thanks so much. I'm
Absolutely.
always learn when I hear your
Thank you.
presentation. So I
Good.
think the option now is for us to stop sharing your screen, and we will turn this over to Barry Fagan.
Yeah, so thank you also for me, Brett. I really appreciate the presentation. I've been following Brett's work for the last several years, and it seems like it becomes more interesting every time I get an update from Brett. I'm a believer in better information leading to better solutions, and it seems like Brett has some of the best information regarding our streams that's possible right now. And so I've been able to include him on some of my work, and I just consider him to be I guess another component of a comprehensive multidiscipline team. So I really appreciate you taking time to do that, Brett, and sharing this information with the association. So
Thank you.
yeah. I also wanted to take a few minutes to update our membership on opportunities that may affect you or you may find interest in, and then also give you an update on where we are as an organization becoming, I guess, more formally and legally formed. So some happenings, as you probably suspected, our MS4 conference that was scheduled for June of 2020, it fell victim to coronavirus also, and it has been not canceled but postponed until June of 2021. So we're still engaged. The Alabama Stormwater Association is a planning partner of with IECA, with EPA Region 4, and we're still talking about how to what that conference looks like when it returns next year, but also what can we do right now as kind of a placeholder. And so while we canceled the live event or the in-person event, there will be a virtual, I guess, series of presentations that would have been included in the live conference, in-person conference. But those registration for those is open right now. There'll be 4 topics spread over 4 weeks. Green infrastructure and clay soils will be one topic. Brett's going to be giving a presentation again on his work. Eve will give a presentation on a watershed approach to managing stormwater. And I think the other one is about modeling and best management practices. So right now, for IECA members, registration for that series of webinars is free. Otherwise, it's I think $75 which gets you 5 professional development hours worth of content. Scott Rogers sent you an email, I think maybe April 9th or so, regarding an MS4 needs assessment survey. It's being conducted by the Water Environment Federation, a national water-based environmental association. This is they do this every year, I believe, starting maybe 2 years ago. But it's important, if you can find the time, or if you have a consultant working with you, to get information regarding your MS4 program into that survey. The results of the survey, we don't know how all that's going to be used, but as far as I'm concerned, it's good. Again, I said earlier that better information leads to better solutions. I think there are a lot of people out there that aren't aware of what you're going through in terms of limited funding and regulation and I guess impacts to your work based on stormwater regulation, MS4 regulation in particular. So please fill out that survey reminder or the survey, the needs assessment survey. One of the outcomes of that survey is the information we plug in there is going to inform the American Society of Civil Engineers as they create America's Infrastructure Report Card for the year 2021. So every few years, ASCE does this report card, and they assess infrastructure in the United States. And in the past, that has been traditional concrete and steel type infrastructure, roads and bridges and airports and those types of things. Stormwater has not in the past been a part of that report card. You can dig under wastewater and find a mention of stormwater, which I think is very telling. But this next report card in 2021 will have stormwater featured as an element of infrastructure appropriately. So the information we put in that survey will help to inform that that stormwater grade on our infrastructure report card. So if you need another reminder or a link to that, look back for Scott Rogers' email on the survey reminder, and just let any of us know if you need more information regarding the survey or the IECA conference. We as a board, we're also talking about doing this again, doing a virtual webinar. You know, we had a half-day seminar planned for several weeks ago and canceled that. It was going to be held at Alabama State University, and Brett was one of those scheduled speakers and offered to do this for us. And so we may follow this up with a couple of the other speakers that we had planned for that live event. As far as our association goes, we're still marching toward becoming an independent, legal, nonprofit association. And in the meantime, however, we have found an organization that's willing to be our fiscal sponsor, and that's the Alabama Association of Conservation Districts. And what that means is they can handle our money if we have money, which we don't. But when we have a live event or an in-person event and need to pay for lunch, someone has to write a check for that, and we don't have that ability right now. So it's been a little bit of a hassle as far as our sponsors go to try to get food paid for. And so that's one example of how this fiscal sponsorship will help. We'll be able to receive gifts and sponsorships, and we'll be able to pay for whatever it is that we might need to pay for through the Alabama Association of Conservation Districts. So we're grateful for that, and we're finalizing that agreement now. We're legal nonprofit status as a 501c3, and to get there, we need to register our name and our logo with the Secretary of State. And so as we get the funds, we're working toward that. Our website development continues. We've got a commitment from the Alabama Soil and Water Conservation Committee. They have an employee that manages their IT and their website, and she is going to help us to further develop content, to secure a domain name, secure a hosting platform. And as we get the funding, we're going to continue to march. The National Stormwater Alliance is a national group. It's an association of stormwater associations, basically, and I've known the founders and the folks that run that association or that alliance. I've known them and worked with them for years, and they reached out to us and invited the Alabama Stormwater Association to be a part of that alliance. And of course, I had to tell them we don't have any money, so they've offered us a waiver of 2020 membership fees, and what that will get us is a greater awareness of what's going on nationally in the world of stormwater management, and also kind of a big brother in terms of how we get this association going. It'll also connect us to other stormwater associations in other states. So the support for just getting an association going and up and running, and best practices and potential fit, a more local partner is the Alabama Association of Nonprofits, and we plan to join that group also. And again, it's an association of associations with resources and things that can help us here in Alabama to make sure that we get our association going and headed in the right direction right off the bat. And every bit of that requires money. As you probably heard, we have had some pretty generous contributions and sponsorships from companies. You saw the companies listed there on the title slide for this event. We welcome sponsorship opportunities. We're sending out a request for additional sponsorship. Some of those folks have committed $250 or $500 at a time. We need more of that, just to make sure that we can keep things going and get things, I guess, further along faster. And so those opportunities are available, and I can assure you that every dollar that's donated or given to the Alabama Stormwater Association goes directly toward promoting and furthering our mission of helping to protect Alabama resources through stormwater related connection. So are there any questions associated with the happenings of ASA or the further development of our organization? Pause just a second for that. Okay, well, again, thank you, Brett, for presenting and keeping us up to date on the state of practice for stream evaluation. Thank you, membership, for choosing to attend and spend time with us today, and thank all of you for what you do for Alabama's waters. We're going to keep plowing ahead and in alignment with our mission and our vision, and we're counting on you to be right there with us. So now I think Eve or Scott's going to talk about getting some feedback from you for this webinar.
Since we're kind of running long, I think Eve and I have been kind of having a side conversation. We're gonna tackle that beyond the seminar via email. So just be on the lookout for an email from me regarding soliciting feedback. Also, speaking of continuing ed and PDHs, I will be sending out some form of documentation like I've done in the past that you can use for credit, however you need to claim credit. And just be on the lookout for those items in the very near future in your email.
All right, well, I think this brings us to a close, and thank you all so much for participating today. We welcome your feedback, and we are very excited to have the opportunity to connect with all of you in this forum, and look forward to hearing your ideas on what you might want to hear next, what you liked about this, and where we need to go as an association to help you, of course, as Barry eloquently said, do all of our work to protect water resources. So thank you, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank y'all.